Oh, it says I'm scheduled. It says I don't want to stay. Hey, guys, what's going on? We made it through another week, and it is Saturday night. Guys, once again, I want to thank you for being here. Welcome to Hot Boxing with Matt on the Warrior Outdoor Entertainment Network. Guys, got a great show for you tonight, and I just can't wait to get into it. I want to say hey to everybody. How's your week go? How's your mom and them? How's your dad and them? How's everybody? Cook anything good this weekend? Was you able to cook? I know we weren't here in Kansas City. It's been one of those steady drizzles all day. So, and I don't have the canopy up around the smokers anymore, so I can't go out and smoking this stuff. But, you know, last week when it was snowing, didn't stop me none. I was out there smoking. So, guys, tonight's show is going to be a good one. Hopefully we get a lot of people that are in comps, that do comps, or want to know more about comps. I have Carl Mcbee. He's a barbecue competitor himself, but here as of lately, he's been organizing more and running more. I met him last year at the West Bottoms Cook-Off, which was a fun little cook-off. I was looking forward to last year, but things got changed up a little bit with COVID, and so here we are. So, guys, before we get rolling, let's go ahead and pay some bills real quick. Don't forget, guys, on the WO Entertainment Network, we have a wide variety of different shows and different people bring their own little twist to it and everything else. Monday nights at 7 o'clock. These are all Central Time. We have the Second Amendment Ranch with Cameron and Carl. Tuesday night at 5 p.m. we have WO Radio with the bosses themselves. Audio is bad. All right. Thank you, sir. With the bosses themselves, Redneck Pimp and Goose. Hot Boxing with Matt. Oh, Joshua Hickman. Oh, crap. All right. And no, it's not Joshua Hickman today. It's somebody else. Guys, I'm sorry for everything here. Trying to get this all together. I got to figure out my sound here real quick and what's going on there. Worst comes to worst, I have another way around it. So, okay. So, guys, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump in here, and I'm going to bring in Carl. And we'll go over more of the show stuff here in a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and bring in Carl and try to get going here. All right. Mr. Carl, how are we, sir?
We're good. How you doing tonight?
Good. Thank you so much for coming in. Glad to have you here with us tonight. Welcome to Hot Boxing with Matt. So, as I started to say, I met you 2 years. No, it was 2 years ago. Because the West Bottoms Cook got moved, right? First one.
Yeah, we had a 1 year down there at Kansas City at Hy-Vee Arena, and then last year with COVID, we had to unfortunately either move it or cancel it, so we decided to move it for last year. So COVID has really played havoc with having contests. So,
you know, I tell you what, we got
be right back down there.
All right, that'll work. Well, we got lucky. My partner and I, Skip, you talked with him a little bit. We was able to get 2 in last year, and then I did a little auxiliary rib cook that I had fun with. So I was able to get 3 in last year, and I was happy about that one. So going forward, we were kind of talking a little bit earlier that we had some he sounds good, but I sound bad. Okay. We were talking a little bit earlier about some mutual friends of ours in the barbecue world that was heading down to Texas way to go do some cooking. So I take that as a good sign for this year. That
I know last year a lot of the Texas area southern competitions, they didn't have too many problems at all. Especially a lot of your contests that aren't in bigger metro areas had a pretty good luck. I don't foresee any difference this year with that, but I guess your person never really knows.
It's okay. I'll figure out something. And that's the thing. This is definitely okay. I'm good now. It's definitely one of those we're all flying by the seat of our pants.
Oh, definitely.
Us competitors, we can only wait to see what you guys can do. And then, the next thing is you guys have got to worry about, making sure we're still happy and still want to, pay to play.
Well, yes, and it all depends on your organizer and what their goals are in doing a contest. Unfortunately, I know there's a group of us organizers. We kind of talk on a regular basis about issues and what they're facing and everything else. And
Mm-hmm.
um, a lot of contests. I mean, even COVID and economics kind of work hand in hand because let's say you are running a big contest and you need 15, 20, $30,000 worth of sponsors to pull off that contest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if the economy's going south, your sponsors aren't as live to go out and help you do that contest. And
Mm-hmm.
so you seen some of that last year. I know there's at least 2 contests I know of this year in the Missouri area that aren't going to happen for that reason that had been around a lot of years.
That's sad.
Yeah, and one of those I even tried coming in and helping them there just to keep it going because I hated to see a contest pulling up.
Yep.
But I just don't think it's going to happen. Um, you've been to my contest, you know that I may not have the biggest prize fund out there, but my prize funds are generally tied into how many teams is there.
Mm-hmm.
It don't take me an awful lot of sponsors to do a contest, and so therefore organizers like myself, we tend to have an easier go of it instead of being so reliant on dragging in sponsors.
Yeah.
Not knocking those type of contests at all, because believe me, it sure would make my life a whole lot easier if I had people writing big checks.
Mm-hmm.
But I've kind of my feeling on contests has always been is let's start out small, get a good base going, and then we can build it up from that. And I've done that with I think of the 6 contests I do, 2 of those has gotten pretty big now. And just for that reason is you can't shoot out of the gate and go for the moon. You got to figure out what you're doing at first.
Yeah. No, sorry. I got something
Still having
going on.
issues?
No, I've got something going on off camera here. It kind of concerning me a little bit. Sorry, but anyways, no, and I get what you're saying. We never think about that as competitors. As competitors, we just look at it as we've got it. Why do we have to pay this for this? Comparing everybody to apples and oranges, and a lot of us, I'll admit, that doesn't put that second thought into it. Like we one of the cooks we did last year was a VFW cook up there outside of Independence, and it was a low buy-in. It was a fun cook, but like them, they already had a location where they don't have to worry about going out and securing, paying rent and everything else for that deal. When you did the West Bottoms cook, we had a blast with it. It was an eye-opening event for us. Us being a first-year team, a smaller team, we didn't expect it to stack up that heavy that quick. And there was some heavy hitters. But one thing that I heard that week, I heard that weekend, and I've heard a lot about your cooks is like what you said. You try to keep the big money out of it, the big sponsors out of it, because things get weird. You want to take it back to the old school and have fun with it.
Well, yeah, and that's I'm not saying keep the big money out of it, but I do like to keep things simple. There's a good theory in life called the KISS theory, and keep it simple, stupid.
Yep.
Don't overcomplicate things.
My daddy taught that one to all his reserve officers.
Yeah. But on top of that, you also got to keep in mind that I have a barbecue team myself. And so when I'm doing a contest and organizing a contest, I'm planning a contest, everything is slanted towards the teams and not so much towards the public, because me as a team, that's what I like in a contest. I do have contests with a lot of public at them. But then again, I have a lot more contests where there's hardly no public at it.
Yeah.
And that's where I generally on all my contests, I have a early bird entry fee. A lot of my contests, I don't charge extra for bigger spaces because the a lot of it, me myself included, have
Yeah.
40-foot boy haulers now.
Mm-hmm.
So I just try to and free power if at all possible to the teams. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I do.
Mm-hmm.
Just because that's if I was going to compete in it, that's what I would want in a contest. But to your original point, my very first contest I ever competed in was in 2005 at the Columbia Elks. Back at that time, vast majority of teams had 10 by 10. Some of we didn't. The easy ups were kind of just like coming in at that time, but I remember everybody, the old pole canopies, setting those up, and so and sleeping in trucks, and or let's say you had a few many drinks that night, you might just camp out on a chair. But you didn't see, you had some pellet smokers back then, but it was an awful lot of us and our offset smokers. The products we used back then, I don't remember the last time. Well, one of them that comes to mind right now is that there used to, I don't even know if it's still available, but there's a product that we used to use called Fab. That's what we used to inject briskets with.
And what was that?
It's similar to like what your Butchers and Cosmos injections are now, but it was like one of the first big competition injections that I personally remember. Really stepped up everybody's games on doing briskets. And so I don't remember the last time I've seen that floating around at a contest. I've often joked with some friends that one of these days I should enter a contest, especially let's say you're dealing with a bunch of judges that's been around for years and years and years. I think it would be neat to do cook a contest like what we used to do years ago, just to see if the judges would catch on and maybe be like, "Hey, I remember this from, years ago about what we was doing." I mean, well, the one abbreviated story version of the story is I started competing in 2005, competed in some contests back then, and then marriage, kids, kind of had to get away from it for a while. And then about 2016, 2015, 2016, somewhere along in there, some friends and I got together and kind of like the old Blues Brothers movie. It's like, hey, we're getting the band back together. Let's go out and do it. So I went to a competition, had my old trusty Oklahoma Joe's offset smoker. I still have it to this day. One of my original, like 1990s Oklahoma Joe's. That's like took, three strong guys to get up in a truck.
I was going to say that was back when like could only be Bass Pro Shops or something like that. Back when it was actually still good metal.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is way before Walmart or any of those boys started selling those. But 8:00 on Friday night, I fired up my smoker, and about 9:00, I put the brisket on, and the team next to us was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I put my brisket on." And he's like, "We don't put brisket on until about 4:30 in the morning now." And I'm like, "What?" I was like, "Where?" And that hot and fast was not a thing 15 years ago. So that was a real learning curve again for me to get back into it. But things had changed. Some things had remained the same, and some things had changed drastically. Like I think the website's still around. It's called like the Barbecue Brethren. Years ago, if you wanted any barbecue tips or anything, that's where you kind of got to. But you looked at, but you kind of always knew that nobody's going to give away 100% of what they're doing. They would always leave out one ingredient or one step or something like that. But the thing that had remained the same in barbecue and KCBS barbecue is teams, even to this day, if you're a new team and if a seasoned team realizes that, you're going to have help. You're never going to be alone. And so I had guys that helped me along the way whenever I got back into it, just like as what I did whenever back in 05. So that's when a team that I became pretty good friends with, it's like, hey, come spend a week, cook with me for a weekend and write down all you want to write down. And he's like, I'll show you what we're doing. So that's kind of my abbreviated story of how this all came about. But on top of that, about 2017, I believe it was, my town where I live at, I decided to have a barbecue contest, and friend and friend of myself decided we would do it, and I didn't know anything about organizing one of these things, and so one thing led to another, and I got into organizing a contest, and the next thing another town calls me, wants to know if I could do what I did in that town, and another charity called me, and so it's just now all of a sudden I'm running 6 contests in a given year. So
you're
that's
running,
kind of how it all happened. Much like you. Go ahead.
Like I say, you're running 6. How many do you think you're cooking?
Normally in a given year, I'll cook about 4 to 5. Last year I did 2, but like just like what you was talking about last year with COVID, that's all I could squeeze in.
Yeah,
and
it was so bad for us. We had one that was supposed to be in April, but it was sold out. They rescheduled it for October, and then they canceled it again and just rolled it over to this year. So those of us that paid our entry and everything for last year, if we wanted to stick in it, we were more than welcome to stick around and go from there.
I luckily of all the contests from last year, which I said 6 contests, but 5. Last year there was supposed to be another contest, and I had the paperwork in on that contest, but we decided to let me put it this way: that contest was going to be at a veterans home, state veterans home.
Mm-hmm.
And with COVID, I knew that was going to be, we had everything planned late the year before, but when COVID started hitting, I knew that was never going to work out. So we decided to postpone that one for a year. So that one hasn't even got off the ground yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the one thing I will say that I do stress to everybody is I don't make a dime doing contests. All the money, each contest that I do has a charity associated with it, and they get all the funds from that contest. I don't charge anything to do them.
Mm-hmm.
I do get a free bar tab here or there, but
that always helps. I mean, back in the fun days, that free bar tab, by God, that would have went a long way.
Oh yeah, it goes a long way with me too. Especially, I did. Some teams I've caught on to this, and I thoroughly enjoy our Thursday nights before a contest starts. That's when me and the KCBS reps are there, and some teams come, and that's the time when I get to cut back and have a good time at a contest, because I don't get to on Friday and Saturday. Maybe Saturday after a contest, I've been known to have a few, but yeah, I donate all the money to various veterans funds, like the West Bottoms contest that you're familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
That money goes to Midwest Adaptive Sports, which they they do wheelchair, water skiing, snow skiing, basketball, rugby. I mean, it's a really neat organization.
I remember. I was going to say I remember them coming in and talking to us before we all got going about what they did, and that's just a really badass setup, man. So I got a question in chat for you from somebody, a friend of yours, brother.
Mine's brother. Okay,
that's right. Richie King asks, "Where are you living now?"
Well, I live in Chillicothe, Missouri.
Living in Chillicothe now?
Yeah, I live northeast Kansas City, about an hour and a half.
That's up around where they're at, ironically enough, Cameron and all that.
Well, if you go up to Cameron, head straight east of there, about 30, 40 miles, and that's where I live. I used to work in Kansas City. Drive down there every day, so. I might be good on that trip, that's for sure. Chat, I also want to take a second here and say, if anybody has any questions that they want to ask Carl while we're going, or myself, feel free to enter it in the chat, which comes up as you're watching it. So I gotta know, which
each side brings its own problems. But what's your favorite side? The running or the cooking?
Well, they can both be stressful, as you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Oh yeah.
Quite honestly, the organization side to me is simpler. Just because I've done it enough times, and I I know what the KCBS reps are doing, and they know what I'm doing. There is no more of a learning curve to it.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, organization side is a lot less stressful than having to make sure your ribs are done on time, or whatever
You
you're
know
dealing with at that given time.
what? After I got a couple underneath my belt, I just started coming to the conclusion: as long as I didn't see that judge right after I got done turning in chicken, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
as long as I don't get that return on chicken because it was still clucking.
Yeah.
Uh, so Richie told me to tell you that his brother is Dale Baldwin.
Oh boy. Yeah, I know Dale. Yeah.
I know that laugh, and that tells me that could be a whole different show.
No, we had you can tell Richie, you can ask his brother about this. We had his bachelor party at my house lots of years ago.
Okay. So
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
whole wow. The funny thing after you said that, my little view clicker jumped up a couple notches. So we might have you back on later to get more
yeah.
views on this one as we go.
But yeah, I lived in Columbia. I grew up here in Chillicothe. I lived in Columbia for several years, went to college in Columbia, and then I moved back to Chillicothe about 06, 07, somewhere along in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I also spent a lot of years working in Kansas City, so a lot of people didn't realize I actually lived here. So,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
but now
Good.
but no, I was going to say that the organization side of it, it kind of I have a day job. I mean, I don't make anything. I don't know too many people that make money from barbecue. Let me put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I have a day job, and trust me, it's completely unrelated to barbecue, but it is a lot of work organization. And so planning stuff and doing events is kind of what I do for a living in a sense. And so it's not that much of a huge leap to do barbecue events.
That's not that much of a stretch for you. So
Yeah.
uh what has been we'll go both sides of the spectrum here. What has
Mhm.
been your favorite cook? What was your favorite contest that you've done so far?
Well, it wasn't necessarily my team, but I have a team that I cook with quite often. If uh, and a team, Keith Sisk, who's a pretty good friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
He's through the years he's at Team Price Chopper, Valley Oak Steak Company. I forgot what name he ran under last year. It was he called me and wanted to do a contest, and I was like, well, what name are you doing? And he's like, well, put me down as like Freddy the Fish Sticks or something. He's like, and I was like, why? And he's like, I don't want anybody to know it's me. And I was like, well, whatever. But
Yep.
Keith and I, actually, the very first contest I ever put on myself, Keith was the very first guy to enter it. So we became pretty good friends. And but anyway, Smith Kearney Jesse James Festival probably 2 years ago, Keith and I won that.
Mm-hmm.
That was
It's funny interesting that you say that because I've heard a lot of mixed stories about that one.
Well, I can tell you this: Larry Pratt, the guy that runs that contest, he could be considered the gold standard for organization of a contest.
Nice.
If he didn't have to cancel that contest last year, that would have been his 30th year doing that contest.
Wow. Yeah.
Year.
You don't do it that long without doing something right.
Exactly. He kind of goes to the beat of his own drum sometime, but there is a method to his madness. You always got to keep that in mind. Of course, I got to watch what I say here, what I'm getting ready to say, but American Royal tends to move their dates around. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they do step on other people's toes in what they do.
Mm-hmm.
He's ran head to head against American Royal up there in Kearney, Missouri, and it don't bother him at all. but that's Larry for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't say it don't bother him at all, because it does bother him that I better watch what I say and how I say it. But
No, it's I remember when that got changed around and all the hoopla that came with it, and it made me really happy to see him still have it. He stood his ground, and he's done well with it, and it's a cook that I'm actually looking forward to doing. But 1 second here, Dale just popped in here a little bit ago. He said, "Hey, what's going on, Carl?"
Tell Dale hi for me.
Dale, he heard you. My partner, he said he did Jesse James back in 07. So part of that for the years, and he said it was a great time all in all. And
when I first started, of course, you got to understand, I lived in Columbia when I first got into barbecue at that time. When I first started, it was Kearney. There was like 4 contests that had been around forever and ever. One of them was Kearney, Smithville, the one up at Platte City that isn't around anymore. It was like at the, I think, Basswood Campground.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
And North Kansas City and Liberty had a contest also at that time. And that Smithville, Kearney, and Platte City, those 3 contests right there had been around for years and years and years.
And it's so bad that some of these contests like that are starting to go by the wayside, and then you got others that I'm just going to go ahead and say it because it's my show and I can get away with say it, but a lot of other ones that have became about corporate sponsors, how big's your rig, all the pomp and circumstances. And I'll say it. I don't care. I have nothing to lose here, but Memphis in May, hell, American Royal anymore. I was out there a couple of years ago when you could go, and the cooking displays and all that stuff that I seen out there was just crazy.
Well, and you kind of hit the nail on the head of why we started the West Bottoms contest. That whole contest came about because, there's a little alcohol involved in this, but anyway, the story. But
some of the best stories start out that way.
I'm not one to drop names, and so I'll keep names out of this. But I know a guy very well that has he won the Royal, or his team, let me say, has won the Royal probably 8-9 times in the 90s, early 2000s. I mean, they were the team to beat at the American Royal. He don't compete much on the circuit much anymore. I think he does do the Royal every year, but that's about the extent of it. But he has a pretty good job in the barbecue world. But him and I were talking about, and I competed in the Royal back then, whenever it was down at Camp Arena.
Yeah.
But we got to talking one night about how we miss it back when it was the Royal and it wasn't corporate sponsored, and teams were out just joking with everybody, and especially on the Thursday nights, Friday nights, let's just have a good time. I mean, it goes back to what I was talking about, the 10x10 easy ups and a couple smokers. It was simple. And so at my camera contest probably 3 years ago, I was talking to a judge that has been around judging. Well, I can tell you this: his judging number it's like 2 digits. I want to say he's a number like 18 or something like that. That shows you how long he's been around. And we got talking about the Royal and about how we kind of miss the way it used to be, instead of, because I mean, now to do the Royal now, I mean, you're talking some money.
Yeah.
So I was just sitting there thinking, and I knew there's a kind of a connection there to Chillicothe, but the owners of Camp Arena, which is now Hy-Vee Arena, I just told them, I was like, well, what some Jack, what needs to do is just go down there and talk to them at the arena and see if they can rent the parking lots and go in the last weekend of September and have a contest. And so about 2 weeks later, I was just driving by down there in the West Bottoms, and I went up the arena, and that's exactly what I did. I went in there, told the guy who I was and what my idea was, and he's like, let's do it. And so the agreement I had with him was I do pay rent down there. But the agreement I had with him was as long as the money goes to charity, he would keep everything reasonable for me. And that's the way it's been to this day, and that's the reason it's a $200 entry fee contest. The thing I enjoyed, you was there, you
Mm-hmm.
noticed that a lot of the teams that were there, there's one team that comes to mind. His KCBS number is 3 digits. He competed in the second ever American Royal, which a lot of people don't realize this. I didn't even realize it until I was talking to him. But the first American Royal, I can't remember where exactly in Kansas City it was, but the second ever American Royal
Opie.
was in the parking lot of the Golden Ox, which is across
Yep.
the road from the
Yep.
arena.
Mm-hmm.
And he was telling me all about that and everything else, and I that's the only contest he did that year, and he came out and did it just because we was back down there at the West Bottoms. But we're back this year. That's the plan. But a lot of things,
A lot of
COVID
things
is
change.
up here.
And I can tell you, OVB barbecue, myself and Skip is definitely waiting for that one to get finalized and ironed out. We'd love to come back down and try to recoup our name and have fun with that comp, because it was a good competition. And my partner Skip, he had did it when it was still called the Great American down there,
Mm-hmm.
and the Great American Cook-Off, and he had cooked down there a couple times, and was really blessed on meeting some really cool guys that helped him along the way as well. And that's what he was saying, was that weekend was reminding him of that, and had fun with it. And I tell you, one of the biggest things that I liked about it was there was a mix of the top dogs. I can think of 2 trailers that are sitting down by the end of the road right now that's still haunting me. And there was the little guys like us, or the weekend warriors, and even backyard cooks. So I mean, there was a good combination of everybody there.
Yeah,
But it definitely taught us that, from a judging standpoint, and tell me if this is true, if this is something that's actual thing, or if it's just what we made up in our heads, that your judges take a look at the teams that are there and know that they're expecting a higher quality of product in that box.
I wouldn't buy into that too much.
You wouldn't buy into that too much?
I can see where some teams would say that, but I have, of course, I'm also a judge. I do judge 1 or 2 contests a year, so and I'm also in judging areas, so all the time.
Yeah.
I've never personally heard a judge say anything about anything about that. But that's not to say that has gone on, because it very well may. I will say that first ever West Bottoms contest, Dakota with Sons of a Brisket got 5th place. I felt so bad for him, giving him 5th place, because along with his 5th place ribbon and his check, he got a 700 pin, and he got a 5th place, and his score was like 701 point something.
Yeah, and that tells you, because we went back and we looked at everything on that, and it was holy hell. I mean, it was, and that was what was cool about that one. Did you make the 25 mark on that cook?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember exactly how many. I know we all fit in that little parking lot. But the fact that it was a smaller cook that scored like a big cook, just like you said, he got 5th place and got a 700 pin.
Yeah. Well, there's some judging things that teams probably don't realize, as far as how we select judges, and stuff like that. And a lot of teams probably don't have a clue what that process works. And I look at other competitions around the country, and sometimes I'll see incredibly low scores or incredibly high scores. And sometimes I get to digging into those a little bit, kind of wondering, why is this one so the way it is, where this one's like low and this one's high. I don't know. Because as a team, now let me put my team hat on. As a team, you like to have consistency, and you like to value, hey, this didn't work this weekend. Let's build off of that and do something else. So you don't, but a lot of that, in my own opinion, goes back to whatever that organizer is and whatever their process is in selecting judges. I have my own process. I've told teams all the time what my process is, and some teams know that. I will say, I do think, I don't know. I see the theory. What some people talk about is, hey, there's 15 teams at a contest that's in the top 20. I'm scared of people like that. But then again, I've seen, prime example last year, my Cameron contest, or no, 2 years ago at the Cameron contest, which is a doubleheader. 50 teams each day. That's turned into a pretty big contest now in July every year. But I had a newspaper reporter with me, one of the local media guys, and a radio guy cruising around with me on the golf cart. And I was introducing them to some teams and showing them some different smokers. And we was running the gamut all the way from, your Myron Mixon water, whatever, super smokers, to a team that had his own 55-gallon homemade trash can smokers. And I told that reporter, I was like, the funny thing is, at the end of the day, that guy in the trash cans can be just as competitive as what that guy in the Myron Mixon smoker can be. This is one of the few hobbies or sports, or however you want to name it. You can throw all the money you want after something. That don't necessarily mean you're going to be better and get more ribbons on or trophies on your wall. And there's no equation there to that. And ironically, the team that won that contest last year, there were several big name teams there, was a team that they a couple 55-gallon drums. I think one of them was even homemade, like a Hunsaker knockoff or something along that line. And they won that contest against all those big teams. So,
and that's the greatest thing, to me, was the fact that, just like you said, and that's what, I told my wife when we first started this was, you can take a guy like me and my partner that we're going to pull up and we're going to pull out 2 Traegers. Say what you want, but we'll pull out 2 Traegers and we could be parked next to somebody with a $40,000 rig, and a $4,000 Jambo Junior on their back deck, and a dishwasher and all that crap. And as long as we hit our marks better, we're going to beat that guy.
Sure.
And that's the greatest thing. It reminds me of I've been blessed to have a guy in my life, John McFarland. They were 1999, I believe, 17th annual American Royal winners. And they are going to they went and they did it on Smoky Mountains.
I've seen guys with a pickup bed full of WSMs win contests. It's but one thing I will circle back around to, and you're a team and you probably don't have a clue, and so I'll talk about this just for a minute as far as judging. Okay, and how all this works in judging. Once again, I have a team, so I see both sides of it. But just one quick story is Winston contest last year, which was at a dirt track over in Winston, Missouri. Fun little contest.
I did that one a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I got my score sheets after the contest, and of course, I had nothing to do with that contest besides I was just cooking at it. So I didn't have any access to any, and I normally don't have any access to any information. But anyway, I was looking at my scores and it was like 989 from Judge 1, 999 Judge 2, 999. And then all of a sudden 567. And I'm like, and I even went to the KCBS reps. So I was like, I want to know who that judge is. And they're like, why? And I was like, so I can take them off my judging list. Because But I'm not privileged, and I was joking, and they knew that. But because you're not privileged to that information, but still, it's kind of like, dude, here I am competing in a contest with this crazy stuff going on, because that's the sort of stuff me as an organizer, if I would see that at a contest I was on, I would try my darndest to figure out who that judge is, and they would not be back, because I don't like that stuff unless and that's where judging. I will never, and I never know judging scores anyway, but I would never disagree with a judge, because if that's their honest opinion, that's their honest opinion. You can't, go against what a judge says. And, but anyway, but to judging, and I know last year there was an awful lot of talk around the country and Kansas City and on judging. But I'll explain to you how I do judges, and then you can theorize off of that how other teams do it. Now, the way I do judges is, number one, I don't use a KCBS website for judging, for judges registration. I don't use a KCBS website for teams registration. It is getting better, but I will say this: at one point, the KCBS back end of their website for us organizers was absolutely horrific. So a lot of us just took matters in our own hands and have our own websites, including me. But so teams register for event, they go on a spreadsheet. And so let's say day one, the first contest I ever did, judges registered for that contest. I sent out confirmations, and what I do is, as soon as the judge registers, like I have judges registered second day of this year for a contest all this year, and I'll come back to that in a second. But I send them an email that they're confirmed as a judge. A month out from a contest, I send them another email saying, hey, you're confirmed. Click here to make sure that you're going to be there. And then 3 days out before a contest, I email them again. Now, if they don't confirm, then I generally will email them and say, hey, are you was registered? Are you going to make it or what? And so if it comes down to a point to where a judge is registered for an event and does not show up for an event, if you call me and say I'm not going to be there, that's one thing. If you don't show up, COVID, once again, has taken is throwing a lot of wrenches in a lot of things. But one way to hack off an organizer is to say you're going to be somewhere and not show up. Because if we're sitting with a contest of 40 teams, and let's say we know we need, I'm just throwing some figures out here, 65 judges with table captains, and I always tend to shoot for 10% more judges than what I need, because you are going to have judges drop out. So let's say, everything's confirmed, people show up. Number one, if you're registered for an event, you don't show up for an event, I put a neat little star next to your name. And then if I catch wind of anything that happened at a contest, questionable, I may put a star next to your name, but then I put an explanation next to that on the spreadsheet as far as this is what happened with this judge. And so that was the first contest. So as time has went on, what I do first of every year is all the judges who have done all my contests in the previous years that actually showed up to a contest, they have first dibs at next year's contest. So the first year I email all the judges and I say, hey guys, here's a contest we have for this year. The websites are open for you guys now. Go in here, register wherever you want, which is fine. But you also got to understand that I try my best to have 10 to 15% new judges, because you got to give the new guys a chance. You can't load everything up with seasoned judges. So you got to, but yet you play a balance, because you don't want to load a contest up with a bunch of new judges. You try to have a mix of everything. You try to have a mix of master judges. You try to have a mix of your middle of the road judges, and you try to have a mix of your new judges. There are some contests that I do in a given year. I can think of one from last year where I had the same set of judges, practically the same set of judges at both contests. And teams ask me, it's like, oh, what judge is going to be there? Well, I can't say anything, but they know my process. But to expand on that, what has gone on since then, there's about 5 of us other organizers in my area, in Kansas City area. We have a neat little Google spreadsheet that is just full of judges that we've had issues with. And if you do something at a contest in X town, I'm going to hear about it up in my neck of the woods. And so you're not going to get invited to mine. So around our area, we have done a pretty good job of weeding out some of those weird outlier judges and everything. Now last year with COVID, it kind of got tough there for a little while.
Mhm.
And I think what some contests were running into last year, and I did have one or two contests last year where I was scrapping for judges. I mean, COVID was first hitting this contest was in June. I was setting, I think I had like 3/4 of the judging seats full. And so what I ended up doing on that contest was we had one guest judge at each table. I thought that, hey, this would be a good way to get to your local mayors, state reps, whoever, local dignitaries in. And so we worked to one of them in each table. But normally I'll take pride in the fact that at most of my contests, we have 100% CBJs. But last year, I think a lot of the KCBS scoring stuff you was seeing and a lot of the comments you was seeing on social media about stuff was stuff I was running into, except they were doing it more where a contest may have been half guest judges and half certified judges. And that's the reason you was seeing these wild swings in scores and stuff like that. But I'm not saying we have it down to an art, but it's a constant refining process on judges. I will say that. And God bless them, because most of the judges that I know, I have judges that have judged every contest I've ever put on. There are two that come to mind right now that every contest since day one that I have ever done, no matter where it is, they have been there. And as you know, they don't get paid for it. They do it. And so I'll never knock a judge, but
No.
I do think, I don't know if you've ever hung out at a truck stop, but you know how the old saying, you can't get 5 truckers to agree on the price of a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
But yeah, hang around a judging area, and man, if you want to know anything about legal advice, accounting advice, doctor advice,
You'll get it. So,
yeah.
Quick question from chat here for you. Richie wants to know what has been your best category: chicken, pork, or brisket?
Ribs, actually, the one you didn't say.
Ribs.
Yep, ribs.
But yeah, the one he left out. He probably left it under the attachment. So,
my one claim to fame is there's a big name team in Kansas City who has a barbecue restaurant. That my one claim to fame is every contest I enter and he's there, I always beat him in ribs. So, but once again, I'm not going to drop names. But
that's definitely a good claim to fame there, considering that there's not very many Pet Masters owners in Kansas City left anymore.
Well, I know one of the original ones, and you know one too. So
Yep. And I'm truly blessed to be able to learn a lot from him. And the time I spent with him, I just can't. Yeah. I'll never be able to duplicate it. Him and his brother. Great guys all together. So now, what is your one category you just hate doing?
Oh, chicken. By far,
chicken. Right there with you. I've been blessed. My partner, he took the chicken, he took the trimming. That became his baby. I was like, you can have it.
Yeah,
I don't want it.
It's funny how in barbecue the cheapest meat and the one you think would be the simplest is the one that's the biggest pain in the rear end.
It is. I mean, there's just so much to it. It's just, I'm gonna have nightmares tonight thinking about chicken thighs.
Yeah.
You know what it is? We just need to say screw it. Go down to Texas and cook the half chickens like they do. That way we have a better chance.
Well, yeah, I've never done one, but I would love one of these days to do Texas. It's called like that sanctioning body that's down there in Texas where they do the half chickens and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Is it
steak?
I can't remember what it is, but I would love to go down there one of these days on vacation, just do one of those contests, just for something different instead of everybody chasing the same thing.
I think it'd be blast, man. But my luck would be I was watching a friend of mine last year, a year before on Facebook, and poor dude, he had to he was running behind, so he went to go jump a barbed wire fence, and when he went to go jump the barbed wire fence, he dropped his turn-in on his chicken.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, yeah, no.
Well, I do have a team that I'm pretty friendly with, and we're pretty good friends. He done very well for himself last year in lollipops,
Mm-hmm.
chicken eggs, and he gave me his recipe. So sometime this winter, I'm tired of thighs and all
Oh,
that.
with the passion, you know, and the only
So
reason why, have you noticed how many people turn in legs up here? Have you noticed?
it used to be, man, if you seen legs after the contest, every judge was talking about it. I mean, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, did you see those legs on? And only that one table of judges seen him. I've been seeing them more and more, just in judging areas whenever I'm walking around. Um, but I don't know percentage wise what it would equate out to, but I tell you, I see them a lot more lately than what I used to. I
See,
can't say.
and me, you know, when I got into it was, you know, around here especially, it was thighs. You did thighs, and that's all you did. You know, you didn't mess around with anything. So that's why when you made mention that he was doing pretty well with the drumsticks, that kind of got my interest peaked a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
another question here from the group. So a lot of these contests, more of the backyard contests, there is that auxiliary category,
Mm-hmm.
and seen a lot of different auxiliary categories: drinks, desserts, you know, you name it. I've seen it. Have you ever done a fish auxiliary?
I never have. I never have. I've seriously considered it because a contest way back when in that town there was a fish farm,
Mm-hmm.
um, indoor fish farm of all things, in an old Walmart store, and it was
Wow.
like tilapia.
Mm-hmm.
And they were a sponsor of that contest, and they approached me about, hey, can we do something with fish? And I'm like, well, yeah. I kind of gave some thought and talked it over with my KCBS reps, and yeah, we were going to try it just to mix it up a little bit, but that
Mm-hmm.
company was having some issues, and they ended up going out of business and everything. But no, anything out of the ordinary, I'm in favor of, because uh, my one my one complaint with KCBS, and I've spoken with people about this, is every team is competing for the same thing. There's
Mm-hmm.
no incentive to get creative and try something out of the box to see if it works. So it's
Yeah.
every weekend everybody's chasing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where the ancillaries is a way for us to, let's try something new and see. And I know turkey. I'm going to be doing turkey at a couple contests this year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as far as the backyard ancillaries, you try to do something that you can do in the time frame that backyard cooks um, are there. And I always have a heart for the backyard teams. That's why a lot of my events generally always have backyard sides to them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and as you've seen, they compete right along with the big guys, but it's judged completely separate turn in times, whole 9 yards.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah,
You know,
I'm in favor of trying it.
so here's an interesting little one somebody just brought up, and I'm going to throw this out team to team. Anybody who wants to take me up at this, and I'm at a contest with you, spam or bologna, like doing a 1 bite challenge with one of those two.
I do bologna just because I did that at a contest once.
Get the
Yeah.
Weber out Friday night, you know, have some fun
Heck
with it,
yeah.
kind of a 1 bite challenge. So we'll take a look.
Get your
Get my what?
bring your drill from your house and a spade bit and drill out the middle of the, just get you a whole bologna and drill out the middle of it and put your cheese and wrap it all in bacon. That's what we used to do at competitions, and we'd eat on it all weekend. And we turned that in once as a ancillary, and I think we got like second place. I can't remember, but
You know, and that's the
it's a
funniest.
good time.
That's the greatest thing about this one is it seems like the recipes that you don't overthink, and just when you let loose and have fun, that's when you score the best. You know, and the funniest part of
it's
go ahead.
that's
Uh,
barbecue in general. The times when you think you got everything nailed down and everything's going smooth, that's when you don't get your name called. But when you get up late and fire up the smokers at 6 a.m. and get everything done in a hurry, that's when you somehow get your name called all the time and get checks. And then you wonder, how did I do that? And there's no way you could ever replicate what you did. So,
it's ironic you say that, because that BFW cook that I was telling you about that Skip and I did last year, my truck broke down on the side of the road. The fan clutch seized up on it, bent the shaft of my water pump, yada, yada, yada. 105 degrees on the side of the road, no shade, no nothing. From helping my cousin, we got my water pump changed out. We still made it there in time. It was about 4 hours behind. We rolled out of bed, got everything going, and we ended up taking second place, RGC'd it overall. And it was after we got our second in a row first place call did we start hearing who the are these guys? Where the they come from? Yeah. So, you're right. It seems like when the shit has completely hit the fan and you've lost all control, it somehow turns out it's one of your best cooks ever.
Oh, I know. But hey, real quick before I forget about it, one thing I would like to say is KCBS wise, I've had one set of contest reps for all the years I've been doing contests, and they are retiring this year.
No, is it who I think it is?
Yeah, Phil and Rosemary. Well, Phil is retiring from being a contest rep. Phil and I have became pretty good. There's some breaking news for you. But Phil, who's a good friend of mine also, is retiring from being a contest rep. Outstanding guy. The people he has introduced me to, the connections I've made are invaluable. And I will say there's no way I could do what I do if it hadn't been for Phil and Rosemary through the years. The way we work contests, I never have to wonder about what he's doing. And he never has to wonder what I'm doing. We both know what our roles are. And it's always been great. Rosemary's still going to be around, and you're probably still going to be. You're going to see Phil. Trust me.
No,
but he's not. No, he's still going to be around in some capacity. And actually, truth be told, he's going to be competing with me at a few contests this year, cooking with me. So you'll still see him around. But he's needs to slow down, and that's what he's going to do after all these years.
Dude, that's awesome.
If you look back through the history of KCBS, and I'll name drop a few people here that, but Phil, Rosemary are outstanding. Snail that lives up in Liberty. I don't know if you've ever met him. You need to look him up sometime.
Okay.
He will tell you the whole story about how he was the first guy to ever win a barbecue competition cooking on cans, and it was like in 1997, I think. Osage City. Oh, he's a character. Lives up there by the Ford plant at Clay Como. He's a character. Yeah, and but he's a good one. But there's a lot of those KCBS guys that have been around since day one that it wouldn't be what it is now if it hadn't been for them and what they're.
I tell you, for me with Phil, first time I met him was the first actual KCBS cook I ever did out there in Blue Springs. He was the rep on that one. And my partner and I at that time, Sam Burton, Southern Sam's Barbecue, he made us feel like we were at home. I mean, it was we were not the new kids on the block. I mean, he was there over and over and over again, making sure we were all right, making sure we knew what we were doing, where we were going, and anything this guy could have gave us, he gave us and above and beyond. And then when I showed up to your cook and I seen him, a year later, and I seen him a couple other times in between, every time I saw him, it was like, okay, it's going to be a good day. I'm going to have a good time.
Well, see, and I met Phil much like what you did, competing in a contest. Whenever I got on the organization side of things, I told myself the only way I would ever do it is if I had Phil and Rosemary. And, in the organization side, a lot of people may not realize this, may so, but guest reps is there purely, well, I can't say purely, but mostly to ensure that all the rules of KCBS is followed to their standards. They don't have much of anything to do with the contest itself. That's where people like me come in. Phil never overstepped his boundaries, and I never overstepped my boundaries with Phil. We both know our place, and it's worked out great. And he's just an outstanding individual. I mean, you couldn't ask for a nicer guy.
110%. So, quick question from Richie again. He's got a list of a couple teams here. He's wondering if you ever cooked against. We'll start with Papa Sweets, Hank's BBQ, and Tub Creek Restaurant.
Well, Tub Creek's a barbecue restaurant in Cameron. I don't think they compete.
Don't think they have a team?
No, I've talked to the owner of the place a time or two. Because one of my biggest contests in a given year is at Cameron. They're at the Elks Lodge, which is a fundraiser for the VA home in Cameron. That's a doubleheader, which this year is also a Smithfield grant contest. I mean, that's going to be a $20,000 purse contest, and so
nice.
You would love that contest. It has a backyard, has a big side to it, free power for everybody, entry fee $200, and we'll probably have 50 plus teams there each day at that one. But Hank's is a barbecue restaurant in Hamilton. I believe that's what he's referring to. I've spoken to them also. I've ate their barbecue. Of course, there's not too many barbecue restaurants up in my neck of the woods that I haven't been to. But yes, he don't compete to my understanding. And what was the first one?
Papa Sweets.
Papa Sweets. I may be wrong, but I think he's up at Jamesport, Missouri. I did compete in a contest at Gallatin, Missouri that he was at one time. But while we're on the subject of restaurants, I will give a plug to my hometown barbecue restaurant, Wabash Barbecue, which has some of the most outstanding fried corn nuggets you'll ever find.
That's what I keep hearing about on a regular basis, and I've heard sinful, naughty things about them that I've got to get up there and try.
Well, here's some more breaking news for you. The Chillicothe contest, which is not on the KCBS website yet. It probably will be by the end of this week. Jim McCullough that owns Wabash, which there's a Wabash in Excelsior Springs, and there's a Wabash up here. The contest this year will be all around that restaurant. There's another restaurant down there. There's a museum down there and a bandstand and everything, but we're going to block off that whole part of the town, and that's where this contest is going to be at for this year, is all down around those restaurants. And thanks to Jim McCullough and Sherry McCullough and Mitch, and who own Wabash, for allowing us to do that. But we're going to be using their band stand and their beer garden and everything for our contest for this year.
Shit. All right, well. But, as soon as those get posted up, I'm going to have to definitely keep an eye on both of those, because they both sound like a good time to me.
Oh, yeah, and I was telling McCullough that I'm not going to compete, which I can't because I do the contest, but I was, instead of competing, I'll go to his restaurant and buy my barbecue and turn it in just to see how it would score against everybody else.
You know, I've seen a couple guys go into places like that, and I've joked with them about that while I was working at said barbecue joints myself.
Yeah, well, as you know, there's a big difference between what we do in competitions and what a barbecue restaurant's doing.
110%, yes, sir.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you personally, have you ever cooked chicken thighs like in competition for home for supper one night?
Yes, I just trying to do practice moves. Yes.
Yeah, practicing. I would hope you're practicing, because you ain't doing it just to try to impress the family.
No, by no means. No, they actually don't like my comp style cooking.
My family seems to love my comp ribs and brisket.
Yeah, the ribs. Yeah, the brisket, they like it a little bit tenderer than what we turn in.
Yeah, but Yeah, it's well, like I said, Wabash Barbecue, Chillicothe, Missouri, some of the best fried corn nuggets.
You heard it here, guys. Wabash, you up there? You around there? Richie, Justin, all you guys, that's your neck of the woods. Go in and check them out.
They know the restaurant. If you live around here, you know it.
Skip was just telling me here a minute ago that, believe it or not, his judge numbers and Rosemary's judge numbers aren't that far apart. So they got into the judging world about the same time.
There's man, I better not throw her name out here, but there's a KCBS rep. I've never worked a contest with her, but she does the judging classes for KCBS all around the country, but up around here. And she judged one of my contests last year, and I want to say her judging number is like 7.
Holy crap!
And I called her, and I'm like, is this a typo? Because she filled it out all online, and I called her back, and I was like, is this a typo, or is this right? And she's like, no, that's my real judging number. And I'm like, oh my Lord.
Good night, Maybelline. So, that's one thing that I've noticed. You kind of touched on a little bit before about KCBS's website. There for the longest time, I can tell you, and I'm sure you knew this as a comp guy yourself, but the comp side wasn't that user-friendly either, shall we say?
Mm-hmm.
So classes, that's I haven't earned my judging number yet. I haven't taken a judging class yet. Do you know of anybody that's going to try to get something out around our area, or you going to? Because I know last year you talked about doing it in Cameron.
Yeah, last year we did one in Cameron. There was some discussion about doing one again in Cameron this year. I don't know if that's going to get off the ground for this year because my day job is keeping me pretty busy. But I'm pretty sure Sue over there at Sugar Creek is going to be doing one this year. And I want to say they have one down in Blue Springs once a year. Well, you could always go to the American Oil one. American Oil always has especially if you're in Kansas City. But other than that, I can't. I know we've been up in my neck of the woods from Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska. We've been trying to get more judges up in our area, and ironically enough, one of my most diehard judges in my area is he's a friend of mine also, but he was a mayor of this town, and I invited him out to be a guest judge, and he liked it so much, and now he went off and he's a certified judge, and now he's a master judge, and he even has a license plate that says BBQRD, which are his initials. So
there you go. So you see what you started with him?
Huh?
Did you see what you started with him?
I know, and he's cooked with me before, and he likes it. It's and that's okay. When I do compete in contests, more often than not, I will have a couple judges with me that are working on their masters, or I always have, let's say it's somebody that's just interested in barbecue but don't know much about it. I'll bring him out. They compete with me for a weekend. The one thing I truly take pride in is the years that I've done this, the teams I can. Once again, I don't drop names, but there's some teams out there that I first met as backyard teams that I kind of introduced them to some other people, and Phil and Rosemary was part of that too. And now they're up here competing with some of the biggest names out here. Whenever I see awards, or I'm looking at the award sheet and I see their name, I take a little pride in that because, that's the person I remember that rolled up to a contest with way too much stuff loaded down in a truck like everybody does at their first contest.
Oh, yeah.
And now they're up here competing. And, and some of these big teams, you can't, everybody may say, well, that's so-and-so from Minnesota or South Dakota or wherever. To me, those guys are one of the barbecue restaurant guy that I know. When I first met him, he had a homemade smoker and like a 12-foot cargo trailer, and he was competing at Smithville, Missouri.
Yeah.
But whenever I talk to him now, he's the same guy as back then. Yeah, he may have 60-foot trailer and a F650, whatever, platinum, super duper, whatever. But to me, it's the same guy that I met way back years ago. Just because you got fancy stuff don't mean your personality has changed. Sometimes some teams do get their 15 minutes of fame and it tends to go to their head a little bit, but eventually they come back down to reality.
Or they don't stick around.
Or they're flash in the pan. Yeah, I've seen that too.
That's the other thing. That's been the greatest thing with the barbecue world. Now I'm learning more about your side of it, and our side of it is so many people, so many genuine people out there are willing to bend over backwards and help you up to that extent. Like we was talking about with the classes earlier. Mm-hmm. They'll tell you up to just enough to make you dangerous and then get you where you want to be. But if you need something, you forgot the stupidest thing, you forgot a cutting board or something like that, you don't have to go but 2 steps out of your area to find somebody that's got something for you. Yeah. Because so many competitors, I know we're this way, is I'd rather beat you at your best than beat you because you forgot something to go in your recipe.
Yeah. The one team that I will throw out here is, and I think the world of them, and I did this time last year. The only thing I knew about this team was that they seemed to be signing up for every contest that I was running, and I didn't know them. But they have turned into, and I've told this guy this to his face and his lovely soon-to-be wife, but that's Pig and Whiskey OG, Josh Farley and Aniston Christie. If I could run contests loaded up with teams like him, it would be outstanding for the simple reason he is one of those teams that if I get a new team at a contest, and he did it 2 times for me this year, let's say it's a team first ever contest they're doing, I will put him next to someone like Josh, and he is like an open book with those people, and he will have them in his trailer and he will be showing them how to do things, and he's just an all-around great person. He's always willing to help whoever. It's I dirt track raced for a hot minute years ago, and barbecue somewhat is like that, because the guy you might be out there racing against on the track, that front left wheel on your car may be his because you blew yours during the hot laps. And so
exactly, he's 100%.
Yep. And it's the same way. I mean, I've showed up to a contest and somehow I didn't have my brisket knife in my camper. I mean, it's just crazy stuff. And I've mentioned it to a few people. Next thing, somebody's walking over to my camper with a brisket knife. So here you go, use this. You're competing against each other, but yet you're all friends with everybody. I will say this though: if you burn a few bridges in with these guys, as some teams have found out, they don't tend to forget that.
No,
at all.
No. And
but there's
go ahead.
But yeah, I mean, it's the teams like Pig and Whiskey and Keith Sisk is another one that comes to mind, and the boys from Meet Rushmore, they're great also. That whole crew.
Yeah, those are great. They've helped us out, helped me out a couple times.
Yeah, I got some pretty good pictures of them. So I filed that away for stuff that might use to my advantage in the future years.
Yeah. I was going to say, this isn't the Friday night show. This is the night before the cooking show. This is the we just got done cooking show here. That one's coming up later. But, it's like I've always told people before, and you can contest to this being on both sides. We'll pull in Thursday night, Friday night, and we'll have a blast. You get to see everybody you haven't seen, sometimes not for a week, sometimes not for a couple of years, not for a couple of months. And you have that big family get together again, sitting around the fire pit and having a beer or having a Coke, whatever, your drinking choice is. Then you have your 1 or 2 cookers, the guys at midnight firing up to put their brisket and everything on because they're going low and slow, or the guys like us that are up at 4:30 in the morning because we're hot and fast guys, and then you have all your timers set, you have all that set. And at least for us, about that 10 o'clock mark, my half-deprived, sleep-deprived mind is, why the hell am I doing this? You get all the turn-ins done. You get a call. If you don't get a call, you're like, all right, when's the next one?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's in your blood.
Yeah.
It's everything. Go ahead.
I could count. I mean, several stories come to mind on people helping everybody out. But whenever you do get your name, it's one of the few sports, hobbies, however you want to mix it up, that when someone does get for their name called for grand champion or reserve grand champion, um, everybody's genuinely cheering for you, and they're the first. The people you compete with are the first ones back, giving you fives and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep.
but you're competing against each other, but yet you're friendly with everybody. That's and that's the Royal. Um, that's one of the reasons I do like the Royal is for the simple fact that me, um, a lot of these teams I know, but the Royal used to be one of those big places you could go every year where everybody is there. No
Yeah.
matter where they were in the country, everybody is there.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't competed in the Royal in several years now, but I'm always there. Um, but I just enjoy walking around and talking to the teams and shaking hands and saying, hey, congratulations. And especially the teams that won the competitions that I put on, I
Mm-hmm.
always make it a point to go by and talk to them.
Oh, that's got to make you feel good as an organizer,
Oh,
seeing your
yeah.
people.
Another team I will say is Dave and Karen Pace with Unfamous Dave's.
Mm-hmm.
Another outstanding team that's running
Yep.
around. They won the Cameron contest, I think 3 years ago or 4 years ago. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that year they was at the Royal. It's like I went over and said hi to them. I mean, they're just great people, but it sure is fun. I mean, and the people you meet and everything else. Um, and especially uh, the backyard teams helping those guys out.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. That's big.
I had a heartbreaker of a situation with a just quick story, backyard team last year is like his second ever contest, and he missed his rib turn in by like 2 seconds, and
Oh.
that's more of a KCBS deal than it is my deal. And Phil was standing there, and Phil had to tell him, a rule's a rule, and if it's you got a noon turn in and it's 12:05 in 2 seconds,
You're
you're
done.
not. But I will say this: if he would have scored just anything mediocre on those ribs, he would have got first place in that backyard competition. And
Oh
I
man.
think when he realized that, but it's like I told Phil Morrow, it's like, well, that's probably the first and the last time he will ever be late for a turn in at a contest.
That's it. That's it. Their runner will probably be that runner that is standing up there waiting for everybody else to turn in.
Yeah,
You know.
that's when I kind of gave him a hint, and that is the Cooks meeting, a little secret, which is not much of a secret, but I generally have Cooks meetings wherever turn-ins are going to be.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I do that is this goes back to me being a team is whenever I leave the Cooks meeting, I will set my stopwatch on my phone and walk to my site where I'm cooking at. So that way I know it's exactly 2.5 minutes or whatever back. Some teams have caught on to that, some don't. But I do that just so everybody can do that if they want to.
And see, and that was one of the first things I started doing was once I didn't do it after I got out of the meeting, but once I got back and everything was set up, I timed that, there and back. And that's religious. Everything I do, I go and I look for where the bathroom's at and where the turn in is going to be at. And then, you time out that walk. So you know what you have to play with.
Yeah. And, and another thing I have noticed, and late last year, one of the teams and I were sitting around and talking about this was one of the St. Louis area teams that does fairly well for himself, father and son team. But it was a Friday night on a contest, and we're all just sitting around, and there's a gaggle of us sitting around. And meanwhile, there were some teams a couple doors down that was scrambling to get everything done. And I've often wondered if there's a correlation between the teams that are relaxed and kick back on a Friday night and those are generally the ones that get their name called on Saturday. It seems to me like I haven't studied it to see if there's actually anything there or not, but seems to me the teams that have more done before they get to the contest.
Yeah, because I mean, it allows you to be prepared for more of the unknown. You can get your trimming done. You can get all that, get in the brine what you need to get in the brine, injected what you need to get injected, and you're taking that breather before everything is set. Now it's like that BFW cook told you about. I think combined Skip and I probably got about an hour of sleep that night, and the next day we turned everything in, and we took RGC to overall, and I mean we had a blast. It wasn't a KCBS sanctioned deal. They're hoping to next year be that way, and we're looking forward to going back next year and cooking. So, man,
Sugar Creek already has a. She's a relation of mine, so I might as well plug her contest. But Sue Mcbee runs Makula is her maiden name, but she runs a pretty good contest, Smoking Creek, which I'm competing in that year.
Yes,
she's been around quite some years on that contest down there.
I've either done that one or wanted to do that one. I got to go back and take a look at all my notes, but that's another one that I've heard a lot. I've heard a lot of great things about that. I look forward to getting to cook one of these days as well.
Yeah, and if memory serves me correct, I think Dan Boyles and Jamie, I can't remember their team name. Oh, All Forked Up for Q. I think they won that last year.
Yeah, right. I believe you are correct. I think that's what I heard. So, what do you have? I mean, what do you have that you're hopefully working on that you can talk about right now coming up? So, kind of get us and lined out and what you have.
Yeah. Starting out the year, the first weekend in. Let me click over to this computer screen so I can make sure I get my dates right. First weekend in May, the Columbia, Missouri Elks contest. It's at the Elks Lodge in Columbia. That last year was our first year at that. Reason I brought that contest back is they had quit that contest for some years, and I approached them, and because I'm an Elks member, so kind of have a little inside with them. But that contest right there was the first one I ever cooked in years ago. And so that contest went away, and I approached him, and we agreed to do the contest again, and I would run it. So that's a fairly well-known contest down in those parts. It gets a lot of St. Louis teams, Southern Missouri teams, Kansas City teams.
I remember hearing about that one. I think it was that one a couple of years ago where there was a big name out of St. Louis that you could register to win a chance to cook with him for a weekend, and you either had to meet him in Columbia or meet him in St. Louis.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I know who you're talking about. That contest there, we tried something new last year, which I think is we're going to be working more and more at for contests this year. And that is, we did a Calcutta on the contest. I don't know if you're familiar too much with what that is or how that works, but this is where the public can get involved in a contest if they want or anything. But I may have my figures wrong, but I want to say there was 38 teams at that contest last year, and we had an auction the night before the contest and auctioned off all the teams. Bidding started, I think, at $40 a team. Some teams went up to $400, $500, $600. Some teams went for $40. You don't know. And then all this money went in this pot. Now this is completely separate to the contest itself. So the KCB side, we tried it just to try to model it, to see if it worked, and it did. It's fairly common in golf tournaments, so it wasn't inventing a wheel, but all that money went in a pot. And then whoever first place team, I'm wanting to say the whole pot was like 3,600. First place team won like 2,400. Second place team was like 600, and third place team was like $400. I mean, but it's some good natured, stuff. But that's where the public may be a little on the outside on stuff like that, because if someone was purely to just look at the KCBS standings and look at teams, and bid on based on that. You may not know because if you look at who won that contest last year, I think that was his second ever contest he cooked last year. And then there was the reserve grand champion was a restaurant owner from down around Springfield, Ozark area. Yeah, and which he was up there in the. Oh yeah, he was way up there on the KCBS standings at that point last year.
Yeah, he was.
But the team that actually won it was a team from St. Louis, who I think you're referring to that win the chance to cook with him for the weekend team. But if you look at him on the KCBS website, you'd think, who's this guy? He's ranked like number 480 something out of the country, but yet he won that contest. So and that's where the teams, there's some teams that pulled their money together and very smartly. They pulled their money together and just started going through and buying a bunch of teams, and they got a pretty good return on their investment doing that. But that's, I think we're going to be doing more of that. In the years to come. Yeah. But so the first contest is, like I said, the Columbia Elks. That's the first weekend in May. We got free power to the first 30-some teams down there. Last year was a $5,000 prize fund. I think this year we upped it to $7,500. I would have to go back and check my notes on all that. But anyway, so after that, kind of off till June, and then the third weekend in June is the Black Silo Winery Swine in the Vine contest at the Black Silo Winery in Trenton, Missouri. Last year was the first year for that. We literally set up in a vineyard in Trenton, Missouri. It's a pretty neat contest. The teams that were there last year, I think Slaps won that last year, if I remember right. And
I believe they did.
I don't remember who got reserve at that last year off the top of my head. But anyway, that's a really neat contest. Great location for a contest. I mean, some of the I look at other teams' Facebook pages after a contest, and some of the neatest pictures I've seen of all last year was the sun coming up over the vineyard and there's smoke rolling out their smokers over the vines.
I bet that had to be awesome to see.
Oh, yeah. And we got a great room up there to have judging and the awards and, I mean, wine everywhere. Well, other liquor too, but, wine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your thing. I've never had a barbecue contest where it's alcohol free. I don't know if that's a thing or not, but anyway,
that's possible.
So that's a neat contest. The owner of the vineyard, we got big plans for that after COVID blows over.
Releases.
That is a contest where the public is in the years to come is going to be at that, and they are now, but in bigger scale. But with COVID, it's hard to tell. But on the COVID deal, I mean, I will say this: a lot of us up in the sticks, as I call it, we don't have a lot of the big regulations like what some of your bigger cities do. Mm-hmm. So therefore, we can still have contests. So that's Grundy County, Missouri. We was able to do that last year. I see no reason why that one would ever get canceled for this year. Nice. So that's a third weekend in June. Fourth weekend in June, weekend after that is 20 miles south of that in Chillicothe, Missouri, which is where I live, is the Grilling and Chilling. That's the contest I was telling you about earlier. That is going to be down around Wabash Barbecue, Blackwater Restaurant.
Yep. Okay.
Our claim to fame in our little humble town up here is we're the home of the guy that invented the machine that slices bread. I guess every town has to be known for something. And so there's a museum down there dedicated all to the sliced bread machine. So,
hey, everybody says it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and your guy just
proved it. Yeah. So, there's some other notable things that Chillicothe is known for, but that's more of a, murder trials and farmers killing people and stuff. But anyway,
stuff.
Yeah. So, that's that contest that was my first ever contest I ever put on. So that contest normally is in Simpson Park, which is a park on the north side of town. It's a good location, but they're going to be doing a lot of work on Simpson Park this year. And plus we decided, it's just going to work out better down there logistically for us. Last year we did it, and we're going to do it again this year. And that is if a team does the Trenton contest and the Chillicothe contest weekend after, they get a discount on both of them price wise. And
Nice.
on top of that, if a team does Trenton and Chillicothe, you can bring your rig on down to Chillicothe after the Trenton contest, and some teams park at my house. Some people park at Wabash Barbecue, but we got places to store rigs between contests, so you don't have to pull to wherever you're going. So, actually, after last year's contest, Phil and Rosemary stayed in my driveway for a week. Just why not?
Now, I was going to say just a quick comment here, real quick, and leave it up to my comp partner there that brings up the fact that the women's prison is out there in Chillicothe.
The women's prisons, yes.
And why he knows so well about that, I don't think we want to get into right now.
Yeah.
No. Anyways, so and then I guess one of my bosses, Steve Ritchie, will be out there at the Blackwater one doing his stand-up show too. So guys kind of got something in common there. But now, so back to your comps.
And Blackwater, side note, Blackwater, it's a newer restaurant up here. One of my favorite watering holes used to be right where Blackwater is now, and it was an old ran down dive bar. But anyway, there's a new big fancy restaurant there, and Richie, if he's local to this area, he probably knows that they got a big enclosed glass patio thing out there with heaters on it, and they're also going to be building a gigantic deck hanging off of that. It's a pretty neat place. So the public's going to be able to come out to that contest and sit around and watch and everything. But I love Chillicothe just because that's my one contest in a given year where I get to go home and sleep in my own bed. So yeah. But yeah. So that's about it and that's the last weekend in June. Then we take off a few weeks, and then I may have my dates all incorrect, but the third weekend in July, which I believe is the 16th and 17th, is the Cameron Elks barbecue contest. Now, let me circle back to something real quick. Trenton contest supports the Black Silo Foundation, which they support Camp Rainbow, which is a summer camp for mentally disabled kids at Crowder State Park. So that's where all the money for that one goes to. Chillicothe contest, all that money goes to the local Knights of Columbus, which they run a school for disadvantaged kids here in town. Now, the Cameron Elks, that was my second ever contest 4 or 5 years ago that I started. Cameron Elks is probably the one contest I have the most fun at in a given year because it's a great location. We tend to drag a lot of teams up there. And it's gone on for so long that I can't say it runs on autopilot, but it's extremely easy on my end to run. But Cameron Elks contest, all that money goes to the local veterans charities. One of the neatest things we've ever done, and the reason I like that contest is after our first or second contest, we built a dock on a pond down south of the Elks Lodge down there, and we take the veterans from the veterans home there in Cameron, and we take the veterans fishing, and we made this ramp that's all handicap accessible so they could go out and go fishing.
Hell yeah.
Pre-COVID, that contest there, it was nothing for the VA home to wheel some of their residents that could get out. They would come down the contest, and so you may be cooking the contest, and there may be a jazzy scooter come rolling by your campsite with a veteran on it. And you can't tell them no. I can't give you any samples, and so it's like, here you go, buddy. So
that's right.
That's a neat contest. Like I said, that's a double.
So Skip, I was going to say, Skip was asking, still have a car show attached to it?
The car show is the weekend after this. We did have the car show 1 year on that weekend, but it just got to be too much running both. So now we just do purely the barbecue side. Now that's a double Friday, Saturday. You don't have to do both days. Most teams do. We do give the teams now. Once again, all the contests I'm telling you about, it's a $200 early bird entry fee, $225 after early bird. But you do get a discount if you do Trenton and Chillicothe. Cameron, you get a discount if you do both days. I want to say it's $375 if you do both days. Okay. Free power to the first 30 teams, or free guaranteed power to the first 30 teams at Cameron. We got some shade. A lot of teams like going up north of the lodge and what we call the woods. Just pick you out a site and, have at it. We got RV hookups up there. We got gray water drains everywhere. Wink, wink. But anyway, but we got power outlets everywhere. It's we got a big air conditioned building. So, but that, like I said, that's looking like a $20,000 both day contest. So $10,000 a day contest this year. Last year, I want to say day one we had 50 some teams. Day two we had like 49. So that was of course, last year being last year, we had teams from South Dakota, Southern Texas. I mean, a lot of those points chasers last year, they had to go wherever there was contests. So
yeah, exactly, where you could cook.
So, but that one's my favorite out of all, my personal favorite out of all the contests I do in a given year. So that's pretty much it for July for me. Is that, and then August. I mean, I will. These aren't my contests per se, but I do help with the judges' registration, and that is the Winston, Missouri contest. They're probably by the end of this weekend, you're going to be seeing their registration on my website. That's the Smoking Trackside Bash at Winston, Missouri.
Yep. My only complaint about that one when I did that one was I was still a ground sleeper at the time, sleeping right out next to the smoker, and they had a motorcycle where they had races all that night, Friday night. Here it is about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm trying to get sleep, and there's freaking two-stroke, motorcycles with no mufflers or four-wheelers going down the center stretch.
Yeah, you do have that. But I'd like, just because that's in my area and I help with their judging up there, but I also compete in that. So, I mean, as far as judging, they just register on my website. I don't have a clue anything else. But and then Excelsior Springs, can't forget the Excelsior Springs contest in August. That's a big one. From my understanding, they are. I was speaking with Jim, they're the organizer down there a while back, and they're doing a double this year at that contest. I believe it's going to be at their airport again because COVID and everything. So definitely get out, support them. That contest's been around for several years up there.
It's good to see it's still up.
And then Labor Day weekend, Maryville, Missouri, up at Mozingo Lake. I cooked in that contest last year. Pretty good location. They got a little working to do, but they're gonna. No contest is perfect first year out, but their contest once again is going to be registering and judges on my website. So that's Labor Day weekend, and then we roll up into September. And September we got the West Bottoms contest last weekend of September. But as in everything, the COVID is, who knows what COVID's going to be doing, but as of right now, it's going to be down there at Hy-Vee Arena last weekend in September. We may possibly move that contest back to a Friday, Saturday instead of a Saturday, Sunday. The reason it was Saturday, Sunday in the past is there was another contest on the Friday, Saturday. So that contest isn't around from my understanding now, or they moved dates. So we may go to a Friday, Saturday on that.
Cool.
And then,
that'll work.
And then in a normal year, there is another contest, but we really got to make sure COVID, and that's that one at the VA home I was telling you about. but that's need to get COVID out of the way before we do anything on that contest, and that's about it for contests.
So Richie says he wanted me to make sure that you knew that he has you plus one covered for the show, for his show out there at Blackwater, the WO Entertainment Show. If you want, it's a doubleheader. I believe the 7 o'clock is family friendly, and then after that, it goes to the more risque, not family friendly side. And he said that he has a ticket for you plus one waiting for you at the door if you want to take them up on.
Better than that. One of these contests, if you're at it, we'll just have to do a live stream at the contest. If you can catch it at a time when I got a free 15 or 30 minutes, we'll have to do that sometime. But yeah, I'll take Rich on that sometime.
So that's going to be April 10th is that date.
April 10th. Okay. I'll remember that.
It is. So,
but
my
day job tends to, I do have a day job that's completely unrelated to barbecue, but I tend to, unfortunately with COVID, we've been busy. But I hope it slows down considerably.
Slow down. Yep. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, Carl, man, from the looks of it, it looks like we're going to be OVB and me and Skip. I got to talk with Skip and confirm it, but Richie really wants me out there at that Cameron cook-off, and then we had so much fun at the bottoms. Well, looks like we're going to Skip and I will shoot for that one as well. So it looks like at least you'll see us 2 more times this year. Hopefully, God willing, the creek don't rise under a comp that you run.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
and it's and I mean, the one thing I will say, lastly, I'm pretty open with teams. If a team wants to know how something works, I would just soon or why something is the way it is. I would just soon a team ask me instead of always assuming something.
Mm-hmm.
It's no great secret what we do. I mean, there's a lot of stuff as far as the insurance and stuff that a lot of teams don't realize, and that. We have ran into issues whenever I got to tell a team, no, we can't do that or we can't do that. But I would just, if a team ever has any questions about why we're doing something or why we have to do something a certain way, just ask us. Most of us organizers are, for the most part, an open book.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was going to say, I can remember a comp that I did with you that almost wasn't to be because of fire extinguishers and a fire marshal. The pain in the ass.
Yeah, that still gives me heart.
Yeah. And that's the stuff that we don't fit.
Yeah. That's that was a stressful time. But hey, we pulled it off. And that's the thing. That's the thing with content. It's like West Bottoms last year. Casey Moe, we knew COVID wasn't going to be able to do it, so the Cameron Elks Lodge stepped up and said, "Hey, move it up here at our place for this year." So that's what we did. So what a lot of people don't realize is in doing the organization side of things, you always got to have plan A and you always got to have plan B, and sometimes plan C. You've always got to map everything out. Everything wrote down that, okay, if this don't work, this is what we're going to do, and just you got to make it work somehow, and you always got to have contingency plans on everything. If I would probably drive people boring looking at all my notes on why we've done stuff the way we've done it, but and I do say we quite often for the simple fact that I can't do all this myself. Each contest I do, I have my right-hand guy at it per se, like Cameron. If anybody done the camera contest, they know Charlie, and Dwayne at Trenton, and Jeff Frampton at Chillicothe, and Curtis and down at Columbia. I mean, there's no way I could do all this. It's all of us together doing this.
One team, one fight. Well, Carl, I can tell you that, there's always good and there's always bad. I haven't seen a bad yet with you. Nothing for the fact that want to keep me out of doing one of your competitions. Thank you so much for being on the show with us tonight. And, they always say that if you don't have enemies, it means you haven't stood up for yourself. And as well as I do, you can't keep everybody happy.
Yeah, that's true. So, all right.
Well, all right. Well, one quick question before I leave, and then we'll let you get out of here. Thank you so much for being on here. Just a side note, little kind of curiosity thing. This has actually been the longest show I've done so far.
I don't know if that's good or
Especially
bad.
with one person. So, man, I've had a blast. So, all the competitions you talked about, you said more than likely they're not so much going to be on KCBS's website, but
2 or 3 of them are right now.
are they right now? Okay.
Yeah.
Facebook, your Facebook pages will have
Yeah,
updated as we go.
actually, all my Facebook pages right now have all that information, and even my website, which I guess I better pimp that out for a second. westbottomsbbq.com.
Mm-hmm.
That has all the registration, all the judges' registration for all the contests I do. It says West Bottoms Barbecue, but if you go to that page, then it has links to all the other contests.
Everybody
all
else.
That.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I know Columbia contest is on the KCBS page. Trenton is, I know. Cameron is, I know. West Bottoms, I don't believe is yet. There's another one in there that's not on there yet, but yeah. And other than that, just like I said, each page or each contest has its own Facebook page, and then we got the North Missouri Barbecue Championship, which we didn't talk about that, but that's out there too.
That gives us another reason to have you back if you're willing to.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that on that one because that's going to change a little bit this year, but that's a whole other conversation. So.
Well, all right, Carl, from me, from everybody here at WO Entertainment, everybody at OVB Barbecue and Charlie's Pride Barbecue, we can't thank you enough for being on, man. It's been a blast, and hopefully you had a good enough time that we can get back together, and we'll talk about this Northwest Missouri Championship.
All right, that'll work.
Sanctioned body that we're talking about. So, Carl, thanks again. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for spending your Saturday night with me. All right, man. Have a good day.
I'll work you later. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys, that was Carl Mcbee. Great guy, good organizer, a good competitor, just all around great guy. So thankful to have him in. For everybody that popped in on chat that I didn't have a chance to say anything to, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for being here. Miss Jennifer, the one thing that I can recommend to you with your allergies is just talk to your people, talk to people out there, see what's, you can ask them, tell them your allergies and ask if it's in their rub or ask if they have a sample or anything like that, and they'll be more than happy to take care of you because we don't want to make anybody sick while we're out there. So, guys, once again, great night, great guest. Okay, host. Yeah, apologize for a little bit of problems we had in the beginning, but so like I said, just to remember, my audio is bad again. I think I just like it when Carl's on with me. So I will get this all worked out, guys. Don't forget to take a look. We'll keep it short and sweet. Pop by WO Entertainment Facebook page and to pin to the top, you will see that breakdown of all shows coming up. And also, there's the WO Entertainment page. We are always open to talk. If anybody needs anything, we may not be able to have the right words or the right ideas for you, but together we'll make it through this COVID thing. The veteran community is a hard thing because we're all not right in our heads anyways, so to be isolated can make it even worse. So guys, please reach out, call your battle buddy, check on your mom, check on your family, check on everybody. Guys, thank you so much. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this short since I'm having audio issues. I'll work on this before next week. Guys, thank you so much once again from OVB Barbecue, Charlie's Pride Barbecue, and the WO Entertainment Network. This is Hot Boxing with Matt. Guys, once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming on. We'll see you next week. Bye.